right, so pâte à choux. Pâte à choux is one of those very basic items, if done properly, can be amazing. You can use pâte à choux to make Parisian beignets, crullers. You can actually fold it into mashed potatoes and bake that off as one of your items. But I also use it for eclairs, cream puffs, Paris Brest. I mean, there's lots and lots of things. And during your final weeks here at the school as a senior, you'll be expected to make eclairs, cream puffs, and Paris Brest. So I would imagine that over the next 5 semesters, you're going to spend some time making these eclairs at home. So today we're going to focus primarily on eclairs and how to make the pâte à choux properly. So we're going to start first on the stove top, and we're going to put our water and our salt and our fat, in this case butter. And you can also put a pinch of sugar in if you want to. I've even seen recipes where they use half milk, all milk. One of my favorite items is called gougères. Gougères is pâte à choux batter that's been made, and then you throw in a little bit of nutmeg, black pepper, a little bit of extra salt, and some Gruyere cheese, and then you just scoop it like cookie dough and bake it at 400 degrees, and it bakes up like these nice, chewy, beautiful little rolls. No proof, no leavening agents, any of that stuff, so it's just really, really easy to work with. Now, speaking of the leavening agents, the leavening agent in this product, you'll notice by looking at the recipe, it's just water, butter, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, and flour. So there's no leavening agent. We're not even laminating anything. So what we're actually doing here is we're going to be building up steam inside of the product. We talked during our quick bread section about the oven lift, the spring that occurs when it goes in. It is so super important that you make this batter properly, because when you go into the oven, it actually expands, the steam expands it very quickly, creating that signature channel that's on the inside of the pâte à choux product itself. So we're going to go in, make sure all of our butter is melted. We have a piping bag with a star tip. In this case, I've used a French tip. I find that the French tips are really nice. It's got this small teeth, and when it expands out, the actual batter puffs out nicely. We have a mixer with a paddle attachment, and we have our eggs. These eggs have already been cracked and whisked and put aside. We also have a high-temp spatula and a wooden spoon. Now, the wooden spoon is important because when we're working this in the bottom of the pot, we don't want to scratch the pot, and more importantly, the heat from the actual dough itself transfers into the handle pretty quickly. And what I find is this is firm enough to move the dough, and this is too flexible. So find yourself a really nice thick handle wooden spoon, and that will do the job for you. All right, so after we bring this to a boil, that last little butter chunk here, there we go. We want it to roll to a boil, and as soon as it rolls to a boil, we're going to dump our flour in. And once we get that flour in, that's when all the arm work starts. So you're going to start working all those arm muscles. And it's one of the reasons why I know when I first started teaching, I had students that literally would look at pâte à choux day as probably their workout day. So you don't need to do arm day today. You'll just do pâte à choux instead. All right, so we've come to a rolling boil. I'm going to dump all of my flour in, and I'm going to quickly grab my spoon, and I'm going to start stirring. And what you're going to notice is you're going to have a very thick roux. Now, if your liquid comes to a boil and it stays boiling, you've walked off with it for a second, you're actually going to continue to boil, and when you continue to boil for a longer amount of time, evaporation occurs, which then causes the dough to be too dry and too thick, and it won't work as well. So this is that part where working the dough, working the dough, working the dough. And this takes about 2, maybe 3 minutes. Okay. All right, so after about 2 minutes of cooking this, you're going to notice that there's going to be a skin on the bottom of the pot. This is normal. This is what we're looking for. Once that skin is really formed, then we're ready to go. The way to check it, typically, it flops back and forth, and it comes together, packs nicely. And I'm going to go ahead and take this straight over to my mixer. And we're going to turn that on and let it mix. Now, I will suggest that while you are waiting for this to mix, you go ahead and add some water to your pot. So I'm going to come over here to my sink. Just about an inch of water. That's all I need. I'm going to put it back on the stove on low heat. What that does is it causes that to cook off for you while you're doing the rest of your work. And then when you're all done, you can wash both items pretty quickly. So, you'll notice that all the steam's coming out of the mixer. We're gonna add our eggs about an ounce at a time. Every time you add the eggs, you need to wait for it to absorb those eggs and continue to work through. You'll see the dough come apart, come back together, come apart, come back together. You don't want to pour it in all at once. If you do that, what you end up with is what looks like scrambled chunks of dough in the bottom of the bowl. And that's not going to work for you. Now, there is a specific test amount. There's a lot of recipes that are out there that talk about the eggs themselves, how many eggs or ounces versus whole eggs versus small eggs versus whatever, because some recipes just say add 9 eggs. In this case, I've given you a weight, and so you're going to work that. But I'm going to show you how you can tell when you know the pâte à choux is ready for piping items. I'm also going to make sure that you want to make sure that you're getting the bottom of the bowl at all times. So sometimes I'll pull the bowl up, or I'll stop it and scrape it down. Like in this case, I really want to stop and scrape. I've got an area over here. There we go. So now as I start my mixer back up, I make sure we get all of those items in there. So I'm gonna add a little bit more egg. Now while this is mixing, we're gonna talk a little bit about prepping the pan. So the pan itself, I have a standard half sheet pan size. I've got a piece of parchment paper and I've folded it in half. And then I've folded it in half again. Go ahead and do all my folds. I pre-folded this before we started. So I folded it in half again, and then I folded it in half again, and then I folded it in half again. So you end up with a piece like this. So when you open this up, you should have, all right, 16 channels to work in for your eclairs. Now, I don't know about you, but I like eclairs to be significant in size because if I'm going to buy an eclair, I want it to be filled with pastry cream and I want to enjoy it. So the idea of making really tiny little eclairs, it's cute and fun for maybe pedophore parties or whatever, but in this case, we want to make them substantial. So once again, coming in and scraping that bowl down, making sure we get everything in there. And before you get all of your eggs in, what I want you to do is to make sure that you're not going to put too much egg in. Why is this a determining factor? Like I said earlier, cooking it on the stove, you can actually cause some of the moisture to cook out, and sometimes you don't cook it enough and you leave some of the moisture in. So therefore your pâte à choux may be either too thin or too thick. So the way to check is by actually going in and grabbing the dough, and I put a little bit between my fingers because I think this is the right amount, and I can actually stretch. And I should be able to almost get my fingers completely apart before it snaps. So this is done. I've got enough egg, and you'll notice I didn't put all of it in there. I'm probably about a half an egg of what I had short of going in. So I'm going to turn this on one more time, high speed, make sure everything's good, turn it off. Now, I have a piping bag here, like I said, fitted with our tip. I'm going to go ahead and get my bag filled up. Just like when we were doing spritz cookies, we don't want to overfill, because if we overfill, it's going to be difficult to do the work, because you're going to be pushing against too much dough. So only use the amount that can fit in the palm of your hand. So some people racquetball size, some people baseball size. So I've got a good amount of dough in there. I'm going to slide that down. I've already got the tip pre-cut. Once again, twist in the bag so that it tightens up. When it gets nice and tight, all right, it's going to be easier to pump. So it's just like when you go and give blood and they give you that little ball to squeeze. This hand holds everything in place. And first we're going to lock down our parchment paper. This will keep our parchment paper from moving while we go to do a piping. So I'm going to find my first channel here and I'm going to pipe right in the middle of it. And I'm going to go slow so that I'm filling up the amount. And pull. Okay, and then I'm going to start again here. Now, what inevitably happens is some people do this, like they're trying to pipe it out. This is great for a churro, okay? But not for an eclair. It needs to have some girth to it for it to actually work. So, we're going to pipe all this batter out, and then we'll get these in the oven. So as you're getting ready to go in the oven, a little chef tip for you. Pan spray, light, right over the top. And what this does is it basically lubricates the surface itself of the crust so that as it goes in the oven and it starts to spring, you don't end up with those nice cracks. It actually expands, so that really helps with the expansion. I've seen people do milk wash. Oddly enough, I had a French guy from Lyon tell me that they use pan spray and they just brush it on a little bit. In this case, it goes on with a nice fine mist. So we'll go in the oven and we're gonna let these bake for about 18 to 20 minutes at about 375 degrees.